Welcome to this episode of Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Joining me on the phone for not the first time, but a second time, it is Huey Lewis and the News, Johnny Colla. Yes, the band has a new album out called Weather, and I just love it. I'm sold on anything Huey Lewis. Let's be fair and honest. Love Picture This, love sports, of course. That was one of the biggest albums in my life. They have an album that came out in 2001, I believe, called Plan B. Didn't get a lot of press or play around radio and stuff, but if you listen to that album, the way it was produced, it just sounds great. You know, you always say, oh, I need a remaster and I need a... man. Plan B, they got an A for that. Let me tell you, that is a great, great album. Anyway, we spoke to Johnny not too long ago. We covered a whole bunch of topics, but we didn't get really deep into the not characters, but the catalog. I think we stopped somewhere around like 1983. I think we worked our way up to sports and weather, you know. So this one we talk a little bit more about Small World 4 and some of the stuff after. There might be some doubling up on content, just in the sense that I went over the first interview and I started taking notes about, okay, you've asked him this, don't ask him that. Make sure you ask him this in the second interview. And then, of course, when the interview goes on, you're not busy reading notes. Your brain takes over, and I'm going, oh yeah, did I mean to ask him about that, or did I? Oh geez, okay, whatever. So anyway, sit back, enjoy, and like the first interview, this one was edited by Johnny Colla. I sent him over the tapes and right, not really tapes, but the digital files, and he put it together. Now, nothing in terms of content was removed, so rest easy. No content was removed. It's just the hem and the haws and the sneezes and the coughs and on both parts, not just Johnny and me. And he just tightened it up. And listen, when somebody of Huey Lewis says, "I want to edit your show," you're like, "Yeah, F yeah." The guys from Huey Lewis get a pass, man. They can do whatever they want because that is, well, the sports album. And I've said this before, and I say it on Twitter every so. It was a defining moment in my life. Kiss at the end of the 70s. I loved Dynasty. I loved Unmasked. I really couldn't tolerate The Elder. Not back then. Creatures of the Night was a great album, but essentially my musical flame of Aerosmith, Cheap Trick, and Kiss had come to an end. And Sports was the album that sort of reignited the music fan in me. You know, that 81, 82, early 83 period was like, oh, what am I going to buy next? You know, because Nights in the Ruts, I love Nights in the Ruts, but at the time it was sort of like, and then what came after that? I'm blanking. The one with Lightning Strikes and Bolivian Ragamuffin or whatever by Aerosmith. I'm blanking on the name. Anyway, that didn't really ignite my fire at the time. Rocks. No, not Rocks. Anyway. So, Sports comes out and all of a sudden it's like, wow, listen to this. I want a new drug, Heart and Soul. It was Bad is Bad. Bad is Bad was my jam. By the way, I can't believe I just said something was my jam. Ooh, ew. That might be worse than when I say something is delightful. Please, if I ever say anything's my jam ever again, just hit stop on the episode and walk away. Honestly. Ooh. Oh. All right. So before you walk away, here I walk alone like a Bruce Kulick. Here is the one, the only Johnny Colla. We're speaking with Huey Lewis, and the news is Johnny Colla, part two, actually, a rebonjour, as we would say in Montreal.
Bonjour, yeah. I'm a tough one to get rid of, yep.
You're a tough one to get rid of. And you know what? Listen, I have to say, not only are you tough to get rid of, but I'm a sold, die-hard Huey Lewis fan. My playlist in the phone, I've increased it since we last spoke. We're at 200 and whatever songs, so... No, I know the catalog. I know this, and it's a great thrill. Even the
I
other day.
also understand you spent big money on the website, so That's exciting. Now I know you're a real fan.
I did. Your company Tinman Merch and I almost did a deal for some stuff I had back in 2013. I was like, oh, look at that! It's the same company as Huey Lewis, and yeah, I spent $154 just the other day. I was like, you know what? Because I have my Huey Lewis mug right in front of me here, and I like it. It's such a like the Kiss mug turned brown after a few washes in the washing machine. Your mug has stayed black, so there you go. So
Okay.
I approve of the merch quality of the Huey Lewis stuff.
We believe in quality over quantity.
Yes,
Any day of the week.
any day of the week. So all right. So for folks that haven't heard part one, first of all, go listen to part one because it's very interesting. But this is part two where we're going to sort of wrap up. This is sort of like the janitor version where we're just going to clean up some loose ends, tie everything in a nice bow. But let us once again talk about whether the new album, since we did part one, the numbers have come out on Billboard and other places, and the numbers have been incredible. People are snapping it up, buying it up, loving it. So just talk to me about that real quick. The fact that here you are all these years later, the first album was 81, so 40 years later, and you're still having an impact on Billboard. Do you look at that and go, yeah, well, kind of expected it? Or do you go, man, that's kind of cool. We're still relevant.
Well, look, this is a modern world, and I would attribute some of our success. First of all, it's right. It's the first batch of original songs in lots of years, but more than that, this is a media-driven world, as we all know, in several respects, and it's the wounded bird thing. Huey's got a problem. Could be fixable, maybe not. We'll see. Only time will tell. And what happens is everyone wants their little piece of Huey in the news because they're remembering. He's in the media with the ear problem, and telling old stories about us, and it makes people want to go out and buy this stuff. So I don't think that's the entire story behind Weather. I think what's happening is both the public and critics are realizing it's a damn good record. It harkens back to sports. I mentioned it in the first half. It harkens back to sports, and it's got this crisp, cool, I don't know how to explain it. It's got this thing that we haven't really had in a long time. It's you could call it, it's organic, but it's also machine-like, and that's pretty much what we did with sports when it came out. It was a conscious effort, and so we're reaping the rewards, I guess. Here's the deal: I put out a lot of records, right, Mitch?
Oh yeah, tons. Yeah,
and I actually can still listen to this one. That doesn't happen a lot.
If you're telling me you can't listen to sports, I might have to hang up on you because that's it. No, but okay, but so that's the new album. Real quick, you also had your album in 2012 called "I Hear Voices," and you wanted to recut this one, or you're in the process of recutting it as a completely a cappella one. I think we touched upon it in part one, but let's just mention what's the not the prognosis. What's the when does that? What's the prognosis, Doctor, on the I Hear Voices? No, but when do you see that
DOA,
one finished?
Baby, DOA.
Yeah. No. Well, no. Hopefully, it's not going to be dead on arrival. But you had planned on having it out at the same time as Weather, and you said to me, "Listen, I just haven't been able to finish this. I've got 3 or 4 tracks done, but there's a lot more." When do you see that one being completed, and do you have to give it space in order to not compete with the main gig? Is there that thought process where you go, I can't have 2 products out at the same time because I can't compete with the band?
No, that has nothing to do with it. But I want to clarify something. Just back it up for a second. That is, I'm not recutting anything, just for the public's knowledge. What I'm doing is, when I first conceived of this, to pick off these old tunes and a Huey in the News standard naturally for this record, I Hear Voices, which, by the way, I don't know if you can get them anymore. I think I might have sold out, which is always nice.
I spent $100 for a copy, by the way.
Yow! Ouch!
I I
When you get
searched,
your second one, just call me up. I'll
Collie,
sell you one for 50.
but I searched the internet high and low on all the different collector sites, and I found one person who had it, and they were selling it for $250. And I wrote an email and said, "Well, hey, would you take 100 for it?" And I went, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And I was like, "Motherfucker!" And of course,
Yeah.
it was sight
Okay.
unseen, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
"This better be good because if there's not at
Yeah.
least one song I like, that's a lot of money for a coaster." And I
Yeah.
ended up loving it. So
Understood.
yeah.
All right. Well, when I'm in Montreal, sign your CD, no problem.
The I Hear Voices. But you know what? Fans have been writing me because I've posted some of the video, the YouTube stuff, and people are like, "Hey, Mitch, we're trying to buy it," and I'm like, "It doesn't exist." They're like, "Well, you tell them to make more." So you would have some
Hmm.
fans who want some. Put out another 100. But
Yeah.
okay,
Right.
so
Yeah.
you're doing the album as originally conceived without all the instrumentation, so not recutting, maybe just suppressing the.
Exactly. It's more of deleting and taking tracks out. I mean, here's how it happened. I'll make it quick. I actually conceived of this as an a cappella record, and I thought maybe I'll just put a little bass and drums in the background. And I got a couple other friends to come in and fill it out with guitar and piano. And what the heck, gives us something to sing to. Well, it got really good, and I decided to put it out as a band record. So it sounded like, uh, um, we're all there in the same room and all that stuff. And afterwards, I had it at my place here at home, and I started taking the tracks out, and I thought this is worthy of putting out. The same tracks exactly. And for those of you in the GP, in the GA, general audience, that don't understand this, this is when you multi-track, you can delete or add anything you want that's already on the tape. So I'm eliminating lots of tracks and really spotlighting the vocals and the solos. And it's like what I originally meant to put out. I'm having so much fun with it.
Yeah, I can't wait. And there's a few on there. There's Naturally from Huey Lewis that you're recovering, and there's Lover Please and Slow Twisting, and I'm just looking at the
Mm.
at it on my phone. Crazy Little Thing Called Love, which I've always said is my favorite Queen song. But all right, let us continue the part two because
Let me crack one more thing in, and you can
yes,
cut it in however you want.
yes,
Here's little known fact. The gal that sang with me on Slow Twistin', she lives about 30 miles away from me here in Marin County. She grew up in Vallejo, California. Her name is Gabrielle Wilson. And as we live, speak, and breathe, she is the woman who has gone on to great stardom, who's called Her, Her.
oh yeah, oh
Are you
that's
familiar with the artist?
yes. I think in fact. I'm trying to think. Didn't Dick Wagner, who used to be with Alice Cooper, do some work with her as well? I think he might have.
I do not know that, but
Perhaps, or maybe
I
I got.
really championed her, and I had her sing after we cut the track. She was only 14 years old at the time, probably now 22 or something. As we cut the track, and then got the record out, now she's kind of emerging and becoming, a young woman with her own opinions and things like that. I had her show up at 3 or 4 local Huey and the News shows and sing Slow Twistin' with Huey, and it slayed the audience, man. It was fantastic.
Oh, she's great. Anyway, I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to when this comes out, which I don't think you told us. It's end of the year this year, or summer, or
The acapella version,
yeah.
yeah, it'll be out by this year. The tentative title, just for the fun of it, it will still be called I Hear Voices, but the subtitle will be Hardly Strictly A Cappella.
There you
There,
go.
I've given it away. You're the first one.
The first one. So we'll let folks know that, and they can go over to johnnycolla.com at the time, and they'll be able to order it and so on and so forth.
Yes, sir. Huh?
Which I'm looking forward to, which is because it's not easy to order the other stuff. Let us get over here just real quick to Phil Lynott and Thin Lizzy. I spoke to Scott Gorham and I interviewed him a while back, and we did the whole talk to me about Huey Lewis, and I said, how did you hang out with Huey Lewis? And he said, well, Huey would hang around the studio, and we became friends, and that's how sort of Scott explained it, but.
Mm-hmm.
There has been on the internet for years these 3 songs still alive. What's the other one? Can't Get Away, and then One
Mm-hmm.
Wish. These three songs all say Huey Lewis and Phil Lynott. These are all the bootlegs, and first of all, I want to talk about that because that I think was his last recording session. But also, the bootlegs are wrong. You're not on 3 tracks. You're on 2 tracks.
That's correct. That's
Oh,
correct. I did a lot of research on it as well. You know, I'll take an old quote and turn it around. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. And I confirmed it with a couple bandmates. We cut 2 tunes. I'm positive of that. We cut Still Alive and Can't Get Away. And Phil, he brought his guitar player out to Marin County to be on the tracks. But for the most part, it was Huey and the News. And I can take full responsibility, whoever wants to knock me over the head, for the backing vocals and a hand in the production, probably, quietly. It's my belief that Philip went back to England, and I think he did a little work in the studio. And that is that third song you allude to is if you listen to it, it's a really crude track. I mean, it's just a simple drum machine with some funny little overdubs. And I'm absolutely positive it's not our band backing them up. There's not a doubt in my mind.
yeah. So One Wish, dear not Led Zeppelin, Thin Lizzy bootleggers is not with Huey Lewis. Okay, so talk to me about that because these songs are unreleased. They're on the bootleg market. With Huey and the band not maybe being able to move forward, making new music because of what we spoke about before, is there a feeling within the camp that, okay, maybe it's time to revisit the past and check the vaults and find some live this and some unreleased demos that, and start maybe putting new product together based on what already exists? And is there a lot that exists? When you go in and do a sports, do you record 18 songs and pick the 9 best, or did you do 9 and say, all right, we're done?
The latter. We, you and I touched on this before, and it's not that we didn't have enough material. I'll repeat myself. It was, why not hit our best songwriting friends up for tunes while we're making a record? And inevitably, some of those songs ended up getting on the record. I mean, we learned as we went. You go back. We weren't great songwriters, but we got better and better at it as you look at any other artist. And so, the answer to your question is no. We had what we had, and we put it on a record. And actually, we caught a lot of flack back in record number 3, Sports, for only having 9 tracks from the record company, from the fans, and all that, because the rigueur at the time was you got to have at least 10 or 11 tracks, no more than 14 or 15, and that had a lot to do with how you got paid, royalties, publishing and writing. You wanted to get a lot of songs on your record, but if you had too many, you wouldn't get paid for the extras. If you had too few, you're shortchanging your public. But we threw caution to the wind and just did what we could do at the time.
It certainly paid off on sports. Now, some of the other things that we didn't cover, of course, is in terms of yourself being a independent artist, and do you ever, and you've done a couple of solo albums, did you ever want to go out there and be more of a solo artist and get away from the News? And did it sort of bother you that it was Huey Lewis and the News and not just a band name to represent everybody, and that, you know what I mean? Like, did you want to sort of stand out from the pack and say, hey, I'm Johnny Colla. I'm not just the News guy. I'm not just Huey's backing band. Was there ever any of that?
Yeah. Let's think about that for a minute. No,
That a
look,
beehive?
I've always wanted to be a lead singer. Let's face it. I think I have a voice for it, and I could have done it. I auditioned for, lots of bands, a lot of hits and misses in that regard. But when Huey and I hooked up and we started this thing. I knew there were certain things I didn't have as a personality, a lead singer, and an entertainer. And all of those things make up success. You can point your finger at a lot of bands who didn't have a couple of those, and they had 3 hits and they went away. And I saw Huey Lewis in the News, what a team player he was, yet he wanted to be the focal point of the band. I saw this as I hate to use the term because it's a sports term, a winning formula. I knew this thing was sincere, and he wasn't, blowing smoke up my ass. That we were in there for the long haul, and it really paid off. 41 years later, here I am, archiving old tapes.
Yeah, and talking to me. I mean, it's as successful as. No, I'm kidding. But let me start off with the band's original name. You were called American Express for a little bit. Talk to me about why you had to change that. Was it just a record company saying to you, be careful, or did actually American Express come to you and say, hey, by the way, there's a trademark out there and it's ours? So
that certainly would have happened. We know that. But if you want to back it up a little bit, as we spoke about, I was drawing and putting up posters for a living in 1974, and when Huey and I became friends, 73, 74, and Huey had a yogurt business at the same time, and we had all these sort of parallel lives going on, girlfriends in the same college and all this stuff. And Huey had a business called Natural Foods Express, and he liked the word express. It was an action word for him, right? He liked express. So as we got this little band going, his first inclination, they got that word going, called it American Express. Huey Lewis and American Express. So our manager, I think he was the first one to say, that ain't going to fly. We're going to get hit every way till Sunday with lawsuits. So we immediately changed the names.
But you did put out a couple of tracks under that. You did Kickback and Exo Disco. And for anybody who hasn't heard Exo Disco, first of all, how do you take that song? And I'll tell you how I think about it and afterwards. But when you look back to Exo Disco, first of all, did you play on that song?
Yeah, I did. We were still trying to figure. Go ahead.
I was how can I explain this? Because it's gonna sound rude, but it's not. But I have it in my playlist, and it comes on, and my brain goes, you shouldn't like this, but I never turn it off because my brain goes, this is fun. So it's sort of like this weird, wacky song that I shouldn't like, and yet I can't turn it off. So I guess it wins because I it's just weird. And
well, I don't know if you have it up there in Canada. Do you have 1-800 Cars for Kids?
No, but we should.
God, lucky you. There's this annoying commercial in America. 1-800 Cars for Kids. And he does a Johnny Cash impersonation, and his daughter sings the thing. And, what do you call it? It's what I love to hate. And Exo Disco probably falls in that category.
Well, that's exactly what I described. I'm telling you, the other day I was walking the dog through the forest, and the playlist goes on, and the songs come on blindly, and it comes on. I'm going, oh, what the hell is that? And then I'm going, oh, it's that song, and I couldn't turn it on. And it's every time I have that reaction of, oh, I can't listen to this, but it's brilliant.
And you said to yourself, what the fuck did they do that for?
Yes,
oh, wait a
I
minute.
did.
I can't stop listening.
Exactly.
Well, I think I told you the story in part one, and that was when when Clover came back to America with their tail between their legs. The first thing Huey wanted to do was get a band going. He knew what he wanted. He knew the guys he wanted. He started talking to us, and probably me first, I would imagine. And I was all in. And he said, look, I got us a record deal. Got us $5,000. We're going to cut this, let's cut one of our theme songs, Exo Disco. Yeah, great. So we cut the tune, send it back to Mercury in England for the singles deal. We took the $5,000, made a Huey and who knows what demo tape, and got a deal with our manager, who ultimately found us a record contract. So Exodisco has value and history.
It's great. The last time out, because I don't remember the entire conversation, but did we talk at all about Small World?
Yeah, maybe
Well, let me
where
ask.
you and I left off. Hmm.
Could be because but I'm curious about Small World, and so let me contextualize it thusly. Sports comes out, major success as we know, puts the band on the map. You do arena tours, the whole thing. Then of course, Four comes out and massive singles, but the sound of the band is somewhat changing. What was the thought process going into Small World? Because you're in this MTV era where you've got, all the hair metal bands are doing these loud, powerful things, and you've got the Madonnas of the world and the U2s of the world. And instead of coming back with Sports Part 2 or Sports Part 3, you go more to the saxophones and to the trumpets and to sort of a swing sound, old Antone. And was that commercially, was that a mistake to do that? Was it just something that you had to do because it was in you? How did the record company react? I mean, talk to me a little bit about Small World, because at the time it seemed like a misstep to me. Looking back now,
Hmm.
when I play it in the playlist and I hear
Hmm.
Old Antone, I'm like, that's a brilliant song. How did the record
Well,
company react to this?
well, I hope I don't offend anybody in the business. Not that it matters anymore. But when we cut Four, it uh, didn't have as good a success as Sports in America. We all know that. But it was a smash in Europe. And I'll tell you, part of the reason was we had a deal where Power of Love had to show up on a different record here in America as a soundtrack to the movie. But over in Europe, Power of Love showed up on Four, and it was a huge record in Europe. To this day, it sells as good or better than Sports. So next up is Small World, and we're kind of spreading out, no doubt about it. We're thinking, we're kind of scatter shooting, if that's a fair enough term. Um, I can remember I was getting really eclectic regarding my songwriting. I was going real sort of ethnic and Americana roots. My contributions were Old Antones and Better Be True, and I suppose a couple others I can't remember. But we were at a strange crossroads with Small World, I can say. It was a pretty mixed bag with, Stan Getz on, you know, on track 5, and something as far out as Bobo Tempo on track 4, which was all live and in the studio. So, did we miss something? I don't know. But as you grow older and people start looking back, they go, "Wow, that marked a place in time," and that's what's important.
It did, and
Hmm.
I have to say, and again, I'll contextualize, but when it came out in what was that, 88, I didn't
Hmm.
like it. I thought, oh my God, what is this? I've lost my
Sure.
band. But now, when I sit down and listen to Huey Lewis, if I think of the band without Walking the Kid, without Old Antone, without Small World, there's a void there. Like those songs have aged very, very well because you weren't chasing a trend. You did the best songs you could do. And in 2020, you can listen to Walking with the Kid and you go, that's a fucking great song. That's a good song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes I guess you just,
Well, it should be pointed out also that I don't think we used any. Oh no, Perfect World. I'm sorry, Alex Call.
oh,
We
that's right.
picked
Perfect
Alex
World's on
Call's
there.
Perfect World off, but besides that, all the songs were in house, which I'm sort of proud of.
Well, okay, so let me talk to you just quickly about that. And I know we touched a little bit about it on the first part, but there is an incredible amount of cover songs by the band over the years. Sports, in a sense, had three, though. I mean, Bad is a Yui song, but other people cut it first.
Hmm.
Talk to me about that. Was there a sense in the band that our songwriting is not good enough, or we're not where we need to be, or did record companies come and say, "Hey, you really should record this. You should really do Honky Tonk Blues. You should really." Why was there so many cover songs, and then when you get down to not Plan B, what was the other one after that? Four Chords, and that you're almost paying tribute to these to the history. Why so many cover songs, or so many songs that were done by artists before you?
Mm. Well, I think you and I talked about that, and
A little bit, yeah.
like I said, it's within the organization, there's 20, 25 songs pitched, and 7 or 8 of them make the cut, which is the essence of Huey and the News. And you work on those, and they become more of the essence. So, like I said, why not hit up your best songwriting buddies for other songs to fill the record out?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Hmm.
All right. So where do we see the future going for the band in terms of 2021, 2022? Do we start looking at maybe getting into a biopic? Do we start thinking about contacting the Phil Lynott estate and say, "Hey, can we do something with these songs?" Do we start thinking of hologram tours? I mean, where do you sort of see the band? Well, listen, Whitney Houston
Well,
just
yeah.
did. Whitney Houston just did a hologram tour of Europe that was sold out. So there is a future in that stuff. But how do you sort of see the band moving forward, or do you just sort of sit back and go, "We had a good run. We can't go forward because of what's going on. Let's just pat ourselves on the back and say, hey, listen, 40 years, bravo."
Hell no. Hey, man, it ain't over till the lead singer dies. Let's face it. It's
Yeah,
holograms.
well, that's true.
Let's get back to that for a minute. We're nowhere near done. I mean, are you ever done? Some guys are done,
No,
for various reasons, but we're going to be fine. We're still having fun with it. I procure the archives on a weekly basis. We talk about what we want to do. We have probably 3, 4, 5 songs that we consider viable for another record, and I'm sure I can get Huey to sing in the studio again. It's not over with, It's the live performances are the problem. So we're gonna be fine, folks. Fans, we're gonna be okay.
you're going to move on. And in terms of procuring the archives, or taking care of the archives, a few years ago they made a change to the copyright, and I think after 25 or 30 years, you're allowed to ask for your masters and stuff back. Is that something that interests you? Do you want to be in
Of
charge of?
course,
Have
we're
you?
not asking.
Oh,
You demand or either sue, but I'm into that sort of stuff. It depends on the original contract you signed. People like Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson's estate are at the cutting edge of this, and we're watching them to see how the juries rule this stuff. And the little guys like us will follow in their coattails and try to get our stuff back. But that's not important stuff. We just we plow through, try to keep writing songs. Songwriting, Mitch, it it has no age barrier. It is so of the imagination. Somebody can come up with an idea that spans generations, and you just don't know. It's like the lottery, and that is really what I love about it. I can lay in bed at night and think of an idea and grab my iPhone and slam it down, and the next morning I'll listen back to it and go, "Wow, that was a shitty ass idea," or "Holy Toledo, that'd work great for so and so."
what did you do when you
That's
wrote
the
Exo
fun of what
Disco?
I do.
Well, what was your reaction when you did Exo Disco? Did you slam it down, or? I love that song, by the way.
Well, hold on. I think I have to educate you. We didn't write that song. Exodisco is a takeoff on the movie Exodus.
Right.
Right. So we didn't write it. It was somebody's good idea to turn it into a song that fit the idea of the times. And everyone had shags, platforms, and polyester suits. And so we thought, what the hell? We're going to jump on this thing, the disco era, and write this tune called Exodisco, and it's all going to go crazy. And we're going to have a little hit here. Well, God damn it, punk rock jumped in our face, changed the entire dynamic. So
it did. Oh, you know what? I'll ask you a fan nerd question just real quick. The song "It Hit Me Like a Hammer." There are two versions floating around. One that has a sax solo, and the other one that has the guitar solo. And a lot of fans don't know that, or they haven't paid attention to it. And I got to say, the sax solo version is fantastic, and then of course the guitar version is fantastic. Talk to me about that and putting both of those out. And is that something the band did a lot, where you experimented with different instrumentation and say, hey, instead of a guitar solo here, let's do Emilio Castillo and his boys doing his thing, and we'll punch it up with that? Was that something you did a lot with the instrumentation? Try different versions and different things like that until you got, and then when you get to Hit Me Like a Hammer, you go, wow, that sounds good, but that sounds good too. Well, let's just put them both out.
Well, actually, that was on Small World, am I right?
It's in my playlist. Hit Me Like a Hammer. I think it might be on Small World. No, Hit Me Like a Hammer was on A Hard at Play. Yes, it's on Hard at Play, okay. And it's a Robert Mutt Lang song.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, right. So there you go. See, those little details are left up to you guys. I have no idea, man. I gotta go to the internet and scrape away and figure out what was what, and then I immediately forget it. What happened was we cut the tune, and the first intention was that it was a sax solo, and it just didn't sit right. Didn't feel good. It's not what I played. It's why should it be a sax solo? So then Chris Hayes came in and cut this guitar part, and the guitar part suited the rockness of the song. And we don't have there's no butt hurt in our band. Well, when my sax solo got 86th for the guitar solo, there was no I didn't have any objections. As a matter of fact, is the role I play with production, I was the first guy to say, fuck yeah, man. It's much better as a guitar solo. Let's go with it. And by the way, that may be one of my favorite videos we've ever done.
Hit Me Like a Hammer one?
Oh, I love it. It's so artsy with the gals and the skirts and the shit breaking up. It's so out of character for Huey and the News. And not a lot of people have seen that, but they should. It's really a beautiful art piece.
All right, I'm gonna go recheck it because I know I've seen all the videos, but I don't remember it specifically. But I do remember the two versions, and fans can buy both versions. There are CD singles that have with the sax mix, and there's the guitar mix, and different greatest hits have put on both versions. I don't know if you're aware, but depending on which greatest hits you get a different version of that song, and it's. Listen, I think both versions are winner. To say that the sax version, I really do. I actually got used to the sax version because I pulled it off for my playlist off of Greatest Hits that had the sax version. And then when I was looking through some other stuff, it said on a CD, the sax mix. And I went, what do you mean the sax? There's a different mix? And then, of course, I went back to the guitar mix. Anyway, I think we've covered a lot, and I'm sort of forgetting what we did in the first part, so I don't want to start doubling up on stuff. But there we go. In terms of here, I'll ask you this: in terms of music videos, how comfortable were you making them, and how aware were you of performance video versus concept video versus having to appear cool and stuff, and then also, you look at Stuck With You, and people are in the sand, and there's a goofiness, but not a negative goofiness, like a joie de vivre kind of attitude to it. What was the sort of the theory behind video making? Because you come out of Do You Believe in Love, and you're like, oh my God, what did we just do? and then you do the artsy piece like you just described with Hits Me Like a Hammer. But overall, what was sort of, did you have any input, or did the record company say, hey, put on these suits there, boys, and let's go, we got to start filming?
No, they had nothing to do with it. We were in full control of our videos, and when it first started, we did talk about this a little bit in our last interview. When this whole thing kicked off, MTV in 1981, I think it was. I can't remember. Who knows? And then, as you talk about great timing, here comes Huey in the News, and the entire medium got caught in my craw. But what the hell? The best thing that could have happened for me is Huey got the same feeling around it. Is these people are taking themselves so seriously, and they're playing, they're making a movie of their song lyrically, line by line and bit by bit. And, there's the troubled girl and the troubled boy and all that shit. We took the shit out of that, just like, Video Killed the Radio Star. Our two only serious videos, and fans correct me, were Hit Me Like a Hammer, and the other one, which is probably not shown much, is Bad is Bad, where we're moving around the streets of San Francisco at 5:30 a.m. It's another beautiful art piece.
Was Bad is Bad released as a video?
I appreciate those.
I thought Bad is Bad
Yes,
got...
was.
Trying to think. Okay, I thought it had been pulled, or it was, or the video was released, but it wasn't released as there's a story with Bad is Bad. Hold on.
You just nailed it. Just nailed it.
Right, it was that, right?
Bad is Bad was never released as a single, but we did make a video of it. And it's a beautifully moody video shot at dawn in San Francisco. So, but for all the rest, Mitch, to my point, is for all the rest, we just took the piss out of the medium and had fun with it, I mean, why not?
Well, I mean, you're supposed to. And
you are, but how about the other 95%, They're taking their shit like they're making a movie.
There was...
I won't talk specific, but...
Yeah, there were... But, I mean, you know what... It must have been interesting to be a musician at the time, because now we're back to being a musician. And when you were the Beatles and Cream and Led Zeppelin, you were musicians. And then in the 80s, you had to be a musician and you had to be a video star. So it must have been a strange adjustment for some bands. And I can imagine Huey, who was just hanging out in whatever Soho and playing the harmonica with Phil, and then it must have been very strange for you guys to say, oh, okay, now we also have to be movie stars? Was that a strange creative adjustment for you?
No, fortunately, we had a very outspoken, charismatic lead singer who loved the lens of the camera, and bless his heart, he's done a hell of a job, It went on to an acting career, so there you go.
That's right, the famous cameo in Back to the Future. And then, of course, the Hip to Be Square video still haunts me. There was something about the close-up angles on that one that always just struck me. I think it scared me, actually, is the actual word for that one. But anyway.
Well, maybe the silliest video we did. We were working with these two guys who I believe had a bit of a hit with I'm Not in Love, but Don't Forget It. Who is that band? Refresh me.
I'm trying to think. Let's see here.
They're called...
Not Gottlieb and Cream,
10cc. 10cc.
Oh, 10cc.
They were called 10cc, and they got out of the business. They had a hit. They made a little money. Who knows what? I don't know the line of their career. But those two guys, were they really ever a band? Did they ever tour? I don't know. But was it Godley and Krim? Yes, I think so. They shot our video, and that may have been the worst video we ever shot.
Well, I wouldn't disagree, but Gottlieb and Cream at that time were very much in demand. They did, didn't they do like Walking by the Dawn Was, or Walking the Dine or something like that? They were the in demand people at that time. And by the way, 10cc, for folks who want to or are paying attention, are on a cruise coming up, a 70s hits cruise. So they still are out there. Now, of course, it says 10cc on the marquee. I don't know who's actually in the band, but there you go. Godley and Cream. Didn't they
Yeah,
have a,
small G Godley and small C Crim. Who knows?
what was that? They also had a
But
song by,
in any event, they shot a video. They got into this video thing, and there you go. It says right here they became involved in videos with the Police and Yes and Duran Duran and Wang Chung and yes, of course, Huey and the News. So they got out of the music end of it. They had a bit of a hit, made a little money, and very creative fellas. I can remember that. The whole idea of it was to shoot this video with a
arthroscopic or whatever. Yeah.
Arthroscopic. That sounded like a great idea to us, but I don't know. Hey,
Still haunts me.
Mom and Dad, go look back. You be the judge.
That video still haunts me. I get uncomfortable watching it. I'm just like, ooh. Anyway, we for folks listening, Wang Chung Jack Hughes is an upcoming interview. I have that booked, so there you go.
Oh, great!
Everybody, great. Wang Chung tonight. All
right,
song. We are at 50 minutes, so our part two has become longer than the part one. And since
I don't think so.
And since I've forgotten some of the things we've talked about and I don't want to repeat, let us just call it a day and we will say merci. And folks, I hope you enjoy both of these. Of course, do pick up Weather, and we will try to convince Johnny to put I Hear Voices back online. It's unavailable right now, but I know fans have been asking, so I don't know. Maybe make it available as a digital download or throw it up on Spotify. I don't know.
Fantastic. Somebody make me reprint it.
They want to hear it. They want it. $100.
Good.
I'll sell you my version for $200.
Yeah. Well, you're going to take a $50 loss there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No. If I sell it for $200, I'm making $100 on it. No, but I don't sell. I don't sell my stuff. I there's a band that I really like. I'm not going to name them, but they just released 2 singles on iTunes. So I texted the guitarist and I said, "Hey, when am I going to get this on CD? Are you going to put it out in Japan or something?" They go, "No, it's only going to be on iTunes." And I went, oh. Well, then I can't buy it. No.
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
I ended up buying it because I'm a completist, but I'm disappointed because I just don't like owning air, as Alice Cooper said. You can't own air.
I understand.
I know.
Yeah. I feel your pain, man. I don't like it either.
I don't like it either. And
For all those who don't remember, LPs are on the upswing, and CDs are on the downswing, for whatever that's worth. Buy an LP. Hold that 12-inch record in your hand. Hold that jacket in your hand. Read the credits. Pull out the protective jacket and see what's where. It's so much fun. It's so old school. And I can say that because I have about 4,000 records in my basement.
But that's how you discovered stuff. I discovered music, the ABBAs and the Kiss and the Beethoven Fifth Symphony, by going through the pile of records that were in front of the record player, my brothers, my moms, my dads, and all that. And it eventually led me to liking, Kiss, and to me liking Aerosmith, and to me discovering these things, and then creating my own taste. And I look at my kids now, and my daughter Jada has all her music on her phone, and my son has all his music on his phone, and their phones don't commingle. And it's like, well, how do you discover stuff that you don't like? My brother had Kiss. That's how I discovered. Like, how do you not? It.
But what do they look like? Who are they?
Well, yeah.
How long is their hair? Yeah, I understand. Besides the neck problems. Oh, that's another story. Yeah, I did the same thing, man. I got cross-legged in front of my parents' record collection, and there were a few things I liked, It's like Pepsi and Coke. Did I like Dean Martin or Frank Sinatra? Or did I like the Beatles or the Rolling Stones? And every so often, I'd pull the wrong record out and realize I was definitely against Ray Conniff. So there you go.
But I mean, you like me must have looked at an album cover and gone, I have no idea who this is, but I like what it looks like. Let me take a listen. You must have done that. We've all done that. And
that's artwork, man.
And you can't do that anymore. You can't. Jada stares at her phone. It's like, okay, well.
That's right. The whole thing was a signature.
Yeah.
This record company put this thing out, and you put it in your hand. It was like buying a first edition book. It was a wonderful thing.
It was. So, folks, do buy Weather, and we will hear. I hear voices. I'm just going to call it "I Hear Voices" Part 2 for now, and we'll go back in the interview and get the exact title. But merci. Always a pleasure. This has been fun.
Merci beaucoup. And don't forget Johnny Colla, Lucky Devil. If you can get that one out there.
Yeah. Well, in fact, let's talk about that real quick. Johnny Colla, Lucky Devil. That one, I think you're still selling for $5 a pop, right? And people can still pick that one up.
I wouldn't know, but yeah, I suppose until supplies run out, that's somebody somebody somewhere else that's taking care of that, I guess I should say. But it's an interesting record. It's light and dark. There's no middle ground there, and I can actually listen to that more than I Hear Voices, because it was sort of a nice little statement for what I was doing at the time.
Well, I will just say, if I can just find it in my playlist here. What's that song here? Hold on one second. I'll tell you the. Well, there's a lot of winners on that song, but the one that's right up front is. Where is it? Here it is. This one, "Letter of the Law."
Oh yeah.
"Letter of the Law." That is a great tune. And a lot of these tunes. If they were Hueyified, not Huey Lewis, the person necessarily, but the band, if they were Hueyified, they would be great Huey Lewis songs. They are, I mean, they're great songs as they are, but you get the whole band in there giving their little thing. I think you've got some great. So you don't have to write for a next
Mitch,
album. You just get.
Truthfully, there's a good possibility 7 or 8 of those tunes were Huey and his rejects. We have we're a band by committee. I decided to make my own record, and that's how that came out. But "Letter of the Law," like a lot of those tunes at the time, were, let me see, what was the line on my site? All true stories. The names have been changed to protect the guilty.
Yeah, you see. But "Letter of the Law" is a great song. I love that album. That's a great tune anyway, folks.
Thanks.
Anyway, folks, that is the end of part 2. And on that, again, remercie. Thank you so much. And let us stay in touch. And whenever the new album comes out, let us promote it and talk about it. And hopefully, Huey will get better and we can get the band back on the road. Because through all my fandom, I have only seen you once live.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yep. Because you always came to Montreal. You came to Montreal in the summer, and I'd always be on vacation with the family, and it's like, damn it. But I've seen you once.
Well, let me throw this in real quick, and I can't even tell you how much we enjoy touring Canada. We've been from St. John all the way to Vancouver, and I actually pitched an idea to the band to take a train like they did in 1968 with Janis Joplin and the Grateful Dead and Quicksilver and all those bands, to take that same train and do the tour from the right coast to the left coast. I couldn't talk them into it, but we have such a great affinity with that. I have a cugino, I have a cousin in Toronto who has a company that actually, a wonderful design company, who helped design one of your Canadian coins. And I have always enjoyed the hang in the country. In spite what they say down here in the lower 48, I'm a Canadian at heart.
Yeah, it's a little chilly, but it's a great country. And just to mention real quick, Steve Harris, the bass player for Iron Maiden, just came and did a solo tour here last November. And I got to the venue and there was no bus, no this. So I said, "What are you doing?" He did that run. So every day after the shows, they'd be driven out to the Via train station, and they took the train from Ottawa to Montreal, Montreal to Quebec. And it was just the greatest idea. They had no stress. Yeah. They had no overhead, basically. And they had the greatest tour possible. So, yeah, I recommend it. You should definitely do it. That would be a fun way to see the city. Or to see the country, I should say.
So.
Anyway.
Yeah. It would be a different way, and we've enjoyed our time up there.
And the last one you did in Montreal was the Jazz Festival, which is really,
That's right.
It is run so incredibly well, that festival. And I haven't spoken to a single artist who has had a bad thing to say about it. So either be the first or tell us how great it is. No, it's
had
a great
an absolute ball.
Yeah.
Of course, you scratch your head a little bit. We're a band, we're a sort of a, who knows, whatever you want to call us, rock Americana band. We're playing a jazz fest, but let's face it, with shows nowadays and concerts and festivals, you can certainly stretch the title of what you're actually doing as far as a promoter. And we had a gas. I trekked out on my own. I walked through the city of Montreal for about 3.5, 4 hours. I showed up backstage a half hour before showtime, put on my little silly uniform, and we had a ball, man.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I think Mike Reno showed up.
Yes,
he did.
Yeah.
He lives really close there, and Reno showed up, and we reminisced and kicked back and talked about the old times. And he was too shy to get up there and sing with me, but good to see his face, man.
Mike is great.
Good to see a Loverboy face.
He was my interview yesterday, Mr. Reno. He's a good,
I'll be damned.
Good dude. Good. Yeah, they are coming here doing a show for a cancer benefit, half mental health awareness benefit. And so we did an interview for that. So you just got to respect a band that does. What is that just turned on? How nice of the air conditioning to turn on in the middle of March.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But no, anyway.
Yeah, Mike Reno, and all the guys, man.
Yep.
Great guys. We opened a tour for them way back when, and in recent years we've done a couple corporates with them, and they are just a great sounding band. They've written great songs and have the utmost respect for the old Loverboys.
Yeah, there you go. So we'll leave it on Loverboy. Thank you for part 2. Thank you for putting up with all my questioning, and I will send you this. And there we go. Thank you, sir. Merci, monsieur.
We'll take it from there, Mitch, and thank you so much.
Cheers. Have a good one.
Oh, Canada.
There you go. Terre de nos aïeux. And if you want to do it in French. Cheers. Bye-bye now.
All the best.
This has been Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. For more exclusive content and interviews, subscribe on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, and many more. Follow Mitch on all the socials, especially Twitter, @Mitch Lafon, and on Instagram, @Mitch_Lafon. Get your Mitch merch now at loudtracks.com/Mitch.